It was just so much. It couldn't take it all at once, Jim. It needed it now.
Thank you, Your Worship. The applications before council tonight are concurrent zoning and official plan amendments been submitted by Vicano Industries. Council and the public will be familiar with some of their work. They've been developing the lots on the north side of Dennis Road. And so very similar type buildings. They have a consultant who is in attendance at the meeting tonight who'll be doing a brief presentation after my presentation and have some illustrative drawings to show you what this will look like. But on this first slide, we see the subject lands in the red solid line that are being dealt with through these two amendments tonight on the southeast corner of the intersection of Ron McNeil Line and Highbury Avenue. The next slide shows a conceptual site plan for the site. This was what was submitted with the application, showing a number of buildings and parking distributed throughout the site. As was noted in the report the council dealt with last month, 3 access points on Highbury Avenue and 3 access points proposed on Ron McNeil Line. So the first application we're dealing with is the official plan amendment. The introductory statement states that this is amendment number 109 to the official plan of the City of St. Thomas. And part of this amendment is a bit administrative in nature. We have to update all of the schedules to reflect the new city boundary. So if you'll indulge me, we just have to quickly go through these. So the first part, item 1.1 states that all those schedules are hereby being deleted and then replaced by new schedules. Item 1.2 deals with Schedule A, the land use plan, noting that in accordance with Bill 63, the city boundary's been changed, and so we are updating that schedule. Here is the new schedule, and as you can see, the new city boundary is being reflected on there. Part 1.3 deals with the Schedule B roads plan. Again, it's amended to reflect the new city boundary, so we have their Schedule B, the new one. Part 1.4 deals with Schedule C, the road widening plan. Here's the new widening plan, again with the new city boundary. I must note that there's nothing about these schedules that's changing apart from the city boundary. That's it. Part 1.5 deals with Schedule D, which is a community improvement areas plan. And again, new city boundary. Schedule E is the special development areas to the official plan. Here's the proposed new one with the new city boundary. And finally, Schedule F is the Heritage Conservation Districts plan. And again, we have that updated to reflect the new city boundary. Getting on with the meat of this particular amendment, item 2 or part 2 of the official plan amendment, item 2.1 shows that the areas shown in the attached Schedule 7 land use plan that are numbered 109 are subject to the amendment. So we have Schedule A showing the area in heavy solid line on the inset, and that is the area that we are dealing with as part of the amendment. Council will also note that the balance of the lands that have come into the city in the new area are being placed into the shaded area, and I will deal with or have a clause in the amendment to deal with that in a second. Part 2.2 states that the Schedule A land use plan is hereby amended by designating the lands that were shown in that heavy solid line as employment lands. So they were formerly in the Municipality of Central Elgin official plan, now being brought into the city's official plan and being designated as employment lands. The balance of the Vicano site is already designated employment lands. So again, for that hatched area, item 2.3 states that the land shown hatched on that schedule shall remain subject to the designations and policies contained in the official plan of the Municipality of Central Elgin until such time as an amendment or amendments to the St. Thomas official plan redesignating those lands is adopted by the City of St. Thomas. And we'll have more information in the near future for council with regards to that process. And finally, under implementation and interpretation, they'll be in accordance with the respective policies of the City of St. Thomas official plan. Concurrent zoning bylaw amendment. First part of that amendment deals with Schedule A. We have to update this. This is the layout of the various map parts, so an index map. It'll be Schedule 1 to the amendment, and it is deleted and being replaced by what is shown on Schedule A or Schedule 1 here. This is Schedule 1 to the amendment. This will be the new Schedule A. And again, it's updated to show the new city boundary. And then map part 30 up here, the boundaries of the map part 30 have been extended right up to the railway corridor. Part 2 of the amendment states that zoning map 30, the map part I was just showing, the current one is hereby deleted, and the schedule is marked as Schedule 2 to the amendment shall form part of the bylaw, and that'll be known as map part 30, so the new map part 30. And that the provisions of bylaw 1998 of the Corporation Municipality of Central Elgin shall no longer apply to those lands. So here's the new map part 30, again showing the boundaries of that map part being extended to the railway corridor to take into account all of the Vicano lands. Next part of the amendment states that zoning map 30 is further amended by zoning the lands that are outlined in heavy solid lines on Schedule 3 here too as EL-10. And this schedule shall form part of the bylaw and be known as Special Zoning Map 30-15. So here's a copy of that special zoning map part, 30-15, again showing all of the Vicano lands being placed into this new EL-10 zone. Part 5 of the amendment is a new paragraph to the bylaw, the area affected being the EL-10 that was shown in the special zoning map part. And essentially what they've requested is additional permitted uses to be added to help to promote the site and encourage more economic development on the site. All of these uses that are being added, I should note, are uses that are found within the business employment lands zone. And so they are in employment lands use, or all of them are employment lands uses, but they're just now being added. So we have business office, clinic, commercial or technical school, communications business, computer, electronic or data processing center, film production, fitness and health club, industrial promotion, industrial supply outlet, institution, light manufacturing and assembly, packaging business, printing business, private club, repair and custom workshop, research and development facilities, and restaurant. So quite a variety of uses here, but as we could see in the original, like the site plan that I showed, this is a very large site with going to be a lot of units in here potentially. So this gives them a lot of options for potential users. And finally, part 4 of the amendment, in anticipation of the eventual consolidation of the bylaw, we have a Schedule 4 to the amendment, which is going to be zoning map part 30, consolidated to include all changes made to date, including this amendment. And I have a copy of that consolidated zoning map 30, and again, showing all the Vicano lands going into that EL-10 zone. Your worship, that is the presentation of the draft amendments. We do have on hand Mr. Dave Aston from MHBC Planning, and Dave is now has been elevated to participant, and he has a brief presentation that he would like to do for council.
Mr. Aston, good to have you here tonight. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here on behalf of Vicano Developments, and I have a brief presentation. Do I just share my screen?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Great. Thanks for the opportunity to speak briefly this evening. Thanks to Mr. McComb for his very thorough introductory remarks. Seems like a lot of change being made to bylaws and amendments, but I think that's reflective of the changes associated with the boundary and the forward thinking of this municipality to invest in the future through the development of employment lands in the city. So tonight I just have a few slides to give you some idea of what's being proposed relative to the lands. This first slide gives a general idea, some preliminary rendering of the different types of designs and the integration of the different massing of the buildings with the proposed development. This slide is really an overview of all of the details from Mr. McComb. The official plan and zoning bylaw amendment looking to change the designation and the zoning to permit a range of uses on the subject lands. The proposed development at this point with the preliminary site plan is really a mix of some smaller industrial type uses with 3 large industrial buildings. So there's approximately 250,000 square feet of smaller units along Ron McNeil line, and approximately just over 1 million square feet in larger employment buildings. internal to the site. So there's a good mix and good opportunity to really support employment growth through different types of buildings. The preliminary design is locating truck parking internal to the site, and the facades, as you saw on the preliminary renderings, we're intending to really finish the street facades and a high quality for a great looking streetscape along with landscaping. And we'll be working with the township on the details of the site plan approval. And we'll be working with the township also on some of the engineering related elements, particularly related to the planned stormwater management pond to the south. This request for modification is very much more high level than Mr. McComb's analysis of the bylaws. So I think it's really just a summary of requests associated with the change to the official plan for a portion of the lands and a change to have all of the land zoned consistently into an employment land zone. And in our opinion, what's being proposed is supported by the vision of the city with regard to employment lands. The majority of the lands were identified for employment. The additional lands support the investment and the planning associated with new employment lands. There's good connection of the lands to major arterial roads, and the site-specific provision permitting additional uses will provide for a broad range of employment uses to support the subject lands and really the surrounding employment lands within this area that are planned and proposed to be constructed over time. So that's our brief presentation this evening. We're looking forward to receiving any comments and working with city staff on moving forward to a final recommendation report. And be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Aston. We'll get right back to you. But Madam Clerk, have you received any written submissions on the proposed changes?
Your worship, we have not received any written submissions.
All right, then I will ask council if they have any questions of Mr. Aston or Mr. McComb. Councillor Peters.
Thanks, worship. Two questions, Jim. One is there any sort of big box retail development that would be allowed on this property, or, like I'm thinking like a grocery store or something along those lines? And then I'll have one other question.
Thank you, your worship. Through you to Councillor Peters. No, the zoning wouldn't permit anything like that on this site. There's a couple of quasi-commercial type, but there's certainly fit in an industrial area for employment uses, but nothing like a grocery store or anything like that.
Okay, and thank you. And I noted specifically that a restaurant was on there, but would a drive-through restaurant be allowed on this site?
Again, thank you, your worship. Through you, a drive-through restaurant is not among the permitted uses. So the restaurant, it's understood, would be a sit-down type restaurant.
Further questions from council? Councillor Gibson.
So if big box grocery store wouldn't be permitted, would a small mom and dad type market would be permitted there, like Briarwood, like we have here in town?
Mr. McComb.
Thank you, worship. Through you, Councillor Gibson. Again, no, there's no permitted uses being added here that would permit any type of like a retail food store of any sort, whether it's a small market or a supermarket.
Councillor Gibson.
If I would like to ask Mr. Aston, maybe if he has any way of helping us doing that, because I've received numerous calls asking just for that in that little area there, if possible, if the bylaws can be changed, zoning or something, because there's nothing really out there for those who live out there.
Mr. McComb.
Thank you, worship. It may assist. I mean, this is part of the industrial area, the employment land, so we normally wouldn't see like a food store out in this area. I understand there's been interest in other parts of the city as well to have maybe a small market or availability for food like on the suburban areas. As a part, I mentioned earlier in the evening, as a part of the official plan update the city is doing, we are going to be updating all of our foundation studies, and that would include our commercial study. Because we have to be careful as to how much floor space devoted to food goes into the market without having a negative impact on the existing outlets that are out there. So we'll be taking a look at that as a part of that overall commercial study. And we'll report back to council if there's any opportunities for that.
Councillor Wookie, then Councillor Herbert.
Thanks, your worship. Quick one here, Jim, about, I'm always fascinated by drainage and where that all goes. And I understand there's a stormwater management pond on the other side of the tracks that's planned. Is that essentially the drainage for this going towards that? And the next question, is it going on, if that's going under the train tracks, do we have to get permission from railways and how, in terms of doing something underneath their property? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, your worship. Through you to Councillor Wookie. The block for stormwater management is to the south of this site. I don't believe they actually have to go underneath the railway track to get to where the stormwater is going. So they negotiate an agreement with the city by which it will be a city stormwater, planned stormwater facility. So we'll accept that. In addition, or in return, they are essentially giving us a road widening that the city requested along Highbury Avenue. So it worked out.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, worship. Well, I like what I see here. Anytime you can take a little corner and redevelop it to look like that, that's our part of our plan, especially when we're starting to fill in all around the Volkswagen area. So I would really support this. So thank you.
Further questions at all from council? We'll open it up to questions from the general public. If we have any on there, please, got some stuff I have to say. We'll now open the meeting to the public. For those attending who have not already submitted their concerns or comments to the city, if you're listening on a computer, tablet, or smartphone, please click the raised hand icon and you'll be called into the meeting. If you're using a telephone, please dial *9. The questions will be taken in sequential order, and given the opportunity to speak, please provide your name and address for the clerk's record. Any questions at all from any of our attendees on the line tonight, either by phone or by computer? And please, members of council, if you think of a question, jump in. I'll offer again to the other members of the public on our attendees list tonight. Any of you wanting to raise your hand or to hit *9 if you're on a telephone and give us your input on this, please do so. And one other time, I'll ask if there's anyone who has any comments at all at our public meeting tonight, please go ahead and raise your hand, yell out loud, hit *9, and I'll refer back to our council. Is there any other questions from council? Everyone's been given a fair opportunity to express their views, and if there are no further questions, please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw for the proposed amendments should email customerservice@stthomas.ca and provide their name and address. Those who do not have access to a computer and wish to be notified should call customer service at 519-631-1680 extension 0 and provide the same information. This public meeting is now concluded.
Thank you.
I-
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Aston.